Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Hinterlands episode one-shot, episode 18. Pardon me, 17. 16 was our last episode, and we had a special just after that, about 9/11. I didn't put a number on it, but this is Hinterlands one-shot, episode 17. Today we're talking about some symbolism in a TV show that we just saw, that we finished, that we enjoyed, although it had some things we didn't enjoy. And we're also
It's trying to be HBO.
Well, every premium TV show channel is like that now.
Yeah.
They all do it.
We thought after the first episode, maybe it wouldn't be like that so much, because that's fairly often how TV shows are nowadays. But no, it continued on that way.
Yeah, even Game of Thrones toned it down on the later seasons. Quite a bit. You watch that first season and you're like, oh, it's an HBO show. Lots of sex and gore. And then, like, later on, they had a moment or two of gore and a moment or two of sex scene through the whole seasons, later seasons, not every episode.
Yeah, the first season was just oversaturated with it.
Yeah, I think they were doing it on purpose to hook the audience, show how edgy they are.
Just to get out of the way, because it's bothering you, I'm recovering from a cold. My voice sounds weird.
And so am I, so if we are coughing and snotting, now you know why. So the TV show we are referencing, without specifically saying, is Carnival Row. It's a show about fairies, basically. It's on Amazon Prime.
Fantasy creatures in general, kind of.
Yes, but they have a very Northwestern European tilt.
I get the feeling they didn't introduce every creature throughout the show, because you'd see things in the background every now and then that they hadn't brought into the story. It mainly focuses on, they call them... Are they called fawns in the show, or are they just called pucks? Because at one point I heard somebody say fawn.
I missed it. I never did come to an understanding as to what specifically they call them. Well, which one's derogatory and which one's proper. They don't make that clear.
Well, they keep calling them pucks.
Anyway, they're goat people.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're goat people, and then there's like the fairy people. They have wings. The pigs, right? They have hollow bones, apparently, and wings. But I liked it. I liked the show. I will say that.
Yeah, it was very, I think, unique.
Yeah, it was refreshingly original. Much more so than a lot of other shows. We tended to be very analytical about storytelling of late, and we're often a bit bemused to find that we've predicted the end of something long before the end.
And we did manage to do it this time. It took us most of the show.
Yeah, that was good though. That was the point. I think by the time we predicted it, most people who were paying attention could have predicted it. Some people maybe before then, but they did a good job of hiding the plot points and making it genuinely surprising what was going on.
Well, they made it seem like one of those TV shows where you have multiple threads all going in their own direction, but it turned out to be one where they do all join up eventually. Except for the... There was
at least one that never connected up.
It did. It touched on it briefly. Because the storyline with the puck and the girl touched on it because her father... Nice job. Her father gave sanctuary to the main character's mother.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Basically, though, it seems to boil down to racism amongst fairies and humans.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy-handed on... Pardon our child. It's pretty heavy-handed on its usage of the current...
Migrants. Illegals. Asylees.
Yes, the current problems of the day, with giant air quotes, because I think they're all... if you've listened to us before, you know we're conspiracy-minded. I think all the current problems of racism, in big air quotes, and the migrant problem are manufactured. They are problems, but they're manufactured problems. They've been put in place on purpose, especially the racism thing in America, the black versus white thing. Like, that's not given when people are given to their own devices, it's not a real thing.
Well, a lot of people agree that racism has gotten worse since Obama. You know?
Yes, it's gotten worse because
Race relations, rather, not racism.
Right, because the narrative is pushed to be worse on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, it's being ruined on purpose, the relations are. Not because it's a hand that is guiding it in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? If people were allowed to just be themselves without the influence, the negative influence, then they would have improved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my belief anyway.
Well, just recently, I'm sure everyone's heard of it by now. There was a fake hate hoax, again, with a young girl at a school where horrors Mike Pence's wife occasionally teaches, where she claimed she was held down and had her dreadlocks hacked off by some white boys.
Those evil white Christian boys.
Surprise, surprise, it never happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I am surprised that her family apologized, I think.
Did they?
Yes, but that really isn't good enough, because these boys have a black mark now.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
Ha.
But on that note of race relations and agendas nowadays, you know, we're going to be accused of something here, but there is a obvious agenda nowadays to push race mixing in movies and TV shows and adverts, and it's usually always a black man and a blonde woman.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, fine, whatever, you're attracted to who you're attracted to, but why push it so hard?
Yeah. Well, it's the same problem that we see in popular culture and television in particular. We'll just say television and movies. Is where every single cast of every single sitcom out there has at least one gay guy, and often more. Where I interact with hundreds of people in my life. I only know of one. Well, two, because he's married, and I know his husband. But two people who are gay. Out of hundreds of people. You know what I mean? It's not like in every little circle of friends that there's comprises of 4 people, you're going to have a black guy and a gay guy. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. There's a ton of people out there, circles of friends, who don't have those people. Please don't make the child make noise into the mic.
I'm not doing it.
You are smiling and making her giggle.
Well, she's happy.
You just derailed my thought process.
Well, the point is that it's being pushed and there's no reason to. Just normalize what's normal. And that's normal. But it's not so normal that it's not so common that it has to be in every single advertisement.
Yeah, it's fine to have, but I don't think it's fine to have in every single thing, because then you start to feel like it's
something you have to do.
Yeah, it's an ideal that's being pushed upon you.
You feel
it's not representative of real life.
And then you come across these women who are guilty that their children are white.
Yeah, I know. Well, the white guilt thing is a different conversation altogether.
I don't think it is. I think
it's related to this one. Yes, it's related to this one, but that's a different thing.
Well, and it connects with Carnival Roll and what we were talking about, is that at first it seemed like, oh, it's going to be one of these shows, the racism, and that immediately, because all the white characters initially seem to be humans, and then you have this pixie who's a minority, and she's, you know, really feisty and pushing, like, okay, whatever, it's going to be one of these shows. But then you see the Puck character who, he's made himself wealthy, and he's gone into the human society and bought a house, and that's unheard of. And he meets the, sorry for all the throat clearing, he meets the next door neighbors, who are this really beta ginger, who's just sickly looking. He's a really irritating character. His face just irritates you. Yeah. And his sister, who's just a little snot and wants to marry into, you know, a higher status.
And surprise, surprise, the Puck is a black guy.
It's like, Could you be more on the nose with the racism?
Yeah, he's this brawny, strong, well-mannered, super wealthy,
He's
black,
kind of rude,
black outcast guy who moves into the white neighborhood, and they all hate him because he's a black guy.
Well, at first
and he's
I
an
thought...
outcast, and he's a puck. But if they had made him white, I would feel...
It would have worked just as well.
It would have worked just as well, and I'd feel less like they were pushing the agenda on me.
Yes.
Or if they were a black family that were wealthy, that would make more sense too.
Well, and
you know what I mean?
To be fair, they did fix that slightly later when the characters are kind of blackmailed into getting him accepted into their society. Because the girl who's snotty, and they go over there, they meet him, and they're shocked and horrified and incensed that he would dare buy a house in their neighborhood. But her brother made some poor business dealings and they need money. So she decides that they're going to try and use the puck to get more money. And so he agrees to lend them money if they help him get accepted into society. So she invites him over to tea with all their friends. And one of them was a black family.
Yeah, that's
true.
So
that kind of fixed it a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, so they're not doing this quite so much.
If all the aristocrats were white, then I'd have much more of a problem. That'd be even more in your face.
But on the other hand, all the policemen, who are a bunch of evil white, white men.
Yeah, it's true.
And
I didn't see any black policemen at all.
Yeah, that was a little, come on.
Yeah.
So,
it's interesting how creators of TV shows, they might not even realize they're doing it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They probably, well, certainly they do often, but sometimes I'll bet they don't sit back and look at society and go, oh, relations between blacks and whites are really bad right now. Let's write a story that points at that. Oh, immigration's real heavy-handed and bad news for Europe right now. Let's write a story that reflects that directly. I bet sometimes creators don't even realize they're doing it. You know what I mean? It's just a society they're so entrenched in that they don't even think about it, and it just ends up in the stories.
I suppose, but in this show, it was so heavy-handed with eventually the racist white girl realizes that she actually really, really likes this black puck. And they end up having sex. And, well, we fast forward through all that, but it's hard to miss the imagery of a devil with horns and hooves, and they set the lighting that made her look like white as snow. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, the imagery was really stark there. This like
they made him
almost 7 foot tall dude with goat legs and like this ripped chest and abs with huge like devil horns, basically goat horns. Like this is where the religious
and I'm pretty sure there were like scarlet curtains and everything.
Yeah,
so the colors in that shot were just weird.
Yeah, there's some deep symbolism going on, and I know a lot of it, but I'm not such an expert in it that I can really delve too deeply into it. But the imagery is there, you know.
And there's a lot more in the show.
It doesn't necessarily matter that he's black, but the imagery definitely accentuated things.
Well,
he's this dark figure, you know, the darkness, evil. You know, he's a goat man with evil, like, devil horns, and he's seducing the young, innocent, red-headed or blonde. white chick, you know, like...
We're totally going to be accused of racism after this episode.
I don't have anything against black people. Yeah. This symbolism is stark. It's obvious, you know?
And in the same vein of that, earlier, she decided she likes him after he is snarky. To be fair, he's kind of an unpleasant character. He's always getting angry. And he throws her into the wall. It's kind of like I got really irritated at that point. It's like, come on, you're basically just teaching women that passionate men are going to throw them into the wall to show how much he loves her.
That's what women want, though. That's what popular culture has taught us.
Yeah, a bruised tailbone. Sounds great. But they go to this art exhibit together, and he buys this expensive painting just to stick it to this other couple who were snooty to them. And the painting is of a devil man, basically, a pan.
Yeah.
Pulling up a human towards heaven as a fair-haired woman with angel wings is pulling him down.
Right, so the symbolism there, of course,
and they discuss it about how, well, he certainly has the horns to be the devil and she has the wings to be the angel, but Just, well, but really, it seems like he's pulling him heavenward, doesn't he?
Yes, the puck is the savior.
Towards
the devil is
illumination.
is the savior, the
Don't
light
they-
bringer.
Don't they actually mention that?
Oh, probably.
I feel like they actually use that.
It's a very Luciferian picture. You can tell, like Lucifer's the savior, and the angels are evil. Which, in the Bible there are fallen angels. Some of them are evil after that. You know what I mean? But like the imagery is like the good is bad and the bad is good. Yeah. That's what they're trying to do. It's a Luciferian ideology that's stuck itself in this story.
So I feel like I enjoyed the show, but I feel like the entire plot and the world is wrapped up in, nice timing, sweetie. Baby's blue raspberry is tied up in, flipping truth.
Sure. Yeah, at its core, it has a Luciferian thing going on. Because Luciferianism, Satanism is God is Jesus is evil, and Satan is Jesus, as it were. Satan is the good archetype. He brings knowledge, and he brings illumination and smarts, as it were. He brings you into the light. He provides a righteousness, and Jesus is a deceiver, and he's the evil one. He will lead you to eternal damnation. The Bible is wrong. Everything's flipped upside down, topsy-turvy.
So I'll be interested to watch the second season whenever that comes out. I guess it's already been renewed because Amazon and Netflix just throw money at stuff nowadays.
Well, they can.
Yeah, but they mention off and on they have probably dark religions. There's this weird cult that shows up about towards the end of the show. But other than that, the main religion seems to be something that centers around the martyr. And we don't really know what that is, but it is somebody hanging on a cross.
It's a Christ figure, but they've hung him instead of...
hung him around the neck.
With a noose.
Yeah.
And like a popular euphemism is God's noose. God's noose. It's like God's noose. It's like...
Really? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, it's like a damnation, that's what you say when you're blaspheming. God's noose.
I thought they kept saying by the martyr.
Well, they say that too, but some of them would say God's noose because, like, the Jesus figure in the show was hung on a cross, but also from a noose, not from his, like, wrists and ankles, as it were.
Yeah. Well, quite aside...
Which was, I think that's an interesting choice, because they gotta have a God figure, but they just wouldn't put Jesus in there, because they didn't want to piss off all the Christians.
Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? If it was directly Jesus Christ, then...
You think they care nowadays?
Yeah, I think they care enough to not actually put Jesus in there. Everyone knows it's a Jesus figure, but it's not actually Jesus, I think that was an interesting choice on the creators. They had to have a placeholder because art reflects reality. They couldn't conceptualize of anything that would come across with the same imagery as Jesus without having something that was super similar. So they put that in there.
Well, that's the interesting thing when you're trying to create religions in a story is creating true ones. And this is why your sister, I think, had a problem with my book, is that she thought I just threw Christianity sorry, at the last minute. Because, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, I better throw this in there. And that simply wasn't the case. It's just that it's true.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's true for my characters. But it's not the central... That's not central to my entire story. I'm not sharing the gospel message.
I think the interesting thing about creating a fictional story is that it goes back to that old problem. Have you ever heard this problem where, and I think about this a lot because I'm weird and I think about weird things frequently. There's this problem where if you were tasked to create something in your mind, say you had an alien and they needed to perceive something, how would they perceive it? You can never come up with anything. It's extremely difficult to come up with anything outside of the five senses. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like an alien may have some weird looking tentacle or whatever, but the tentacle's always going to be touching to taste or to touch, or it's always going to have to do with one of our five senses.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really, really difficult for our minds to perceive something outside of that. Because that's all we perceive the natural world with. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I have such a hard time with atheists.
Well, I was wrapping it back around. That's what I feel like, coming up with some sort of religion for your story that is different than what's in real life. It's so difficult because those were really.
I didn't do anything.
Kidding? You smiled at her again. Those religions that exist in real life are already existent, and they kind of stick in your mind, and it's really hard to conceive of something that's different than them.
Yeah.
As you guys are distracting me from my thoughts.
I'm not doing anything.
Sure. Anyway, thoughts?
I was just going to say, because you made me think of that halfway through, that's why I have such a hard time with atheists, is they claim that there's this lack of belief. I feel like it's just absolutely ridiculous to try and conceive of nothing exploding into something.
Yeah. Well, the whole...
I can't wrap my mind around there being nothing for me.
Yeah, the whole lack of belief thing is... It's basically just denial of reality, I think. That's kind of how I see it. It is. It's a very challenging thing to force oneself to not believe something.
Well, because either you can believe that nothing is real, nothing has ever existed, or something made us that is outside of our laws of reality.
Well, you're getting into some deep apologetics there that are kind of outside the scope of this podcast.
Well, yeah.
This particular podcast. We've already touched on apologetics in another podcast.
Well, it irritates me so much when I come across internet comments. They're like, yeah, I got to Jesus making wine out of water and, like, walking on stuff and healing people. And I'm like, I'm out, man. It's like, okay, you're good with goo turning into humans and nothingness turning into the entire universe.
Yeah, it's kind of insane to say that you don't believe in things you can't, that are intangible.
Yeah.
Because information itself is intangible. Like, if you don't have consciousness, which they can't actually detect on a computer or measure, then all these sounds coming out of your earbuds on this podcast mean nothing to you. But you interpret these little vibrations in the air as information that you can understand and interpret with your consciousness. That in itself is evidence of things that are intangible but mean something.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway. Pardon me. I will edit that cough out. So, moving on. I think maybe I should put an addendum at the beginning of the podcast saying big spoilers for this TV show.
I was thinking that.
Because we definitely revealed a bunch of the stuff that happens in the show. Not the main plot, but some of the main plot.
I thought Orlando Bloom was a little bit wooden.
Yeah, he was fine. I
was just thinking, I haven't actually seen him in that many things. So maybe I've just overestimated his acting ability.
I don't know.
I was fairly impressed with the main girl.
Mm-hmm.
Especially considering that she's another one of those women who've gone from being a model to an actress.
Yeah.
They just had to get their gay agenda in there, but it was really light, and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Because one of the secondary...
Well, that show basically just proves that lesbians don't exist.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they hit it right on the head. They hit the nail on the head. Lesbians don't exist. Maybe I should expound upon that.
Yeah.
Milo Yiannopoulos claims, and I agree with him, that lesbians don't exist, in that women sexually have much more of a much less rigid view on the thing, and can kind of swing either way, but they will always be able to go back to a man, whereas gay men can't go back to women. They're completely repelled by it, but women can kind of go either way, which makes lesbianism kind of moot. There's no such thing as a pure lesbian, because the way they view sexuality is more fluid.
I don't know. I've seen some women who are just never gonna go back to men because
they've made themselves extremely unappealing to all men.
Yes.
And no man would go near her. So maybe we should move on. That's pretty good coverage. Again,
Did we lose our 2 fans?
Oh, probably. Our 2 fans probably hate us now. Well, that's not true, because one of our 2 fans is my mom. She likes our show.
Oh, is she actually listening?
Yeah, she says she always wants to jump into the conversation, because we always talk about interesting stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, I have a fan. It's my mom. Hi, Mom. So, moving on, I wanted to just touch on the concept of red pill. Which sounds weird, but anybody who knows what that means understands. I'm not really sure how to broach the topic. A baby is grabbing my notebook. But we were talking about the other day about how some people just can't... There are so many people in the world who are just so completely not red-pilled. They don't believe anything that isn't...
given to them by an authority.
Yeah, exactly. That isn't given to them by an authority. And if that authority can be as simple as the dictionary or the Encyclopedia Britannica, there are people, I'm certain, who think that the Encyclopedia Britannica is infallible. Everything in there is God's truth, and it is 100% true. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
And you can believe everything that's in it.
There are people rewriting definitions nowadays.
Right, exactly. But tell that to people. You know what I mean? Tell that. You can tell people that
racism is power plus privilege.
Well, I was going to say that people who are trannies, transvestites, that used to be considered a mental disorder, like a literal problem, like a mental problem. Mm-hmm. In the DSM, it was listed by a psychiatrist's scientific manual of definitions for things. It was listed as a mental disorder, and now it's a thing that you can just do. It's fine. All you
have to go back to is, 70s, 80s to watch MASH? Klinger was dressing as a woman to try and get out.
Yeah, in order to get kicked out of the military, yeah. That's such a good show.
There's so many shows that wouldn't be made nowadays. Like, I was telling you, I was watching TV Sins today, and they had a Friends episode, and every now and then he'd mention, this would not be made nowadays. Yeah, because remember Chandler's transvestite dad? Transgender dad? And they go to a drag show. Like, there's so many little things that just wouldn't be acceptable nowadays.
Yeah, so all that to say that narrative changes and definitions change, but truth doesn't change. And there are people who just follow whatever the authorities tell them, which is wild to me. Man is fallible. Things that are written down are not written in stone, as it were. They're not true. They're just because they're written in some special manual somewhere. And it bothers me that there are people who literally don't question these things ever. They just don't. And then you have that's on one side of the bell curve. You have, I call them normies. They're just normal people. It encompasses, I don't know what the percentage is, but I bet it's as high as 70 or 80% of all people fall into this category where they don't question things. They don't think about things. They watch reality TV. They believe what they see on CNN. They think that's the truth because it's the news. It's the authoritative source, or the AP, Associated Press, whatever Reuters and the Associated Press comes out with. That's the truth.
Did you say associated?
Associated, yeah. That's right. Associated Press. I don't know why I said that. And that's kind of messed up to believe everything that you're force-fed from something that just comes from a singular source. That source could be lying, and you would never know it because you just don't question these things. And that's wild. That's crazy to me. I tend to question everything, no matter what. I even question, and I wonder, kind of rambling here, but I wonder if that comes from questioning my own religion, because I really have. And I don't think that you can come to the truth if you haven't questioned things. You know? It's not like I was born and then I just grew up believing this thing. I questioned it. You know what I mean? And then I believe it because I arrived at the truth by questioning it.
Well, I give you this look because I don't recall ever questioning it. I've obviously struggled to walk the walk, but...
I think it's a mistake to just believe everything, even your religion.
Well, I don't just believe everything.
Well, there you go. So you have investigated it and come to the truth.
But it's the way you say it that is misleading, because that makes it sound like I must have reached a point in my life where I thought this might not be true.
I did.
Well, but not me.
Oh, okay.
I've never in my life that I recall ever questioned whether I thought God was real.
Yeah.
And whether he was the right God.
Well, that's fine, but it's an example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I certainly question every other thing during the day, though.
Every other thing, all the time.
Hey.
Yeah, it's weird. And then you have people who believe everything. And I think that's a mistake, too. Oh, they believe all the contrarian stuff, which is, they're on the other end of the bell curve. It's kind of the wrong place to sit as well, in my opinion. There's, for instance, there's on Twitter, I won't name names, but there's specific people on Twitter that I read, and they seem to be so given over into believing all the esoteric weird stuff. All of it is truth to them. And that's a mistake, too. There has to be balance there. You have to apply logic, and kind of find corroborating facts. You can't just believe everything. It's a challenging thing to deal with, but I think it's better to question things than it is to believe all the stuff the government and Reuters sticks in your face.
Well, my point in all this the other day was that I have a problem with people who clearly think that they question authorities and don't trust all authorities, but depending on what the topic at hand is, they clearly do. Oh, yeah. And their initial reaction to you saying something that questions their presupposition is, oh, come on, you must have heard that blah, blah, blah. Or, that's just silly because this person I know is in this area of study and they know this, this, and this. Like, yeah. Well, you're just proving to me that you trust everyone.
Yeah. And to some point, on some level, we're all guilty of that, and it's almost impossible to escape. To the point where, now hear me out. I used the example earlier today in a conversation we had where if somebody gave you a satanic Bible and was like proselytizing for Satanism, you probably would either deny them completely and not take the pamphlet for Satanism, or you would take it and just bin it. You know what I mean? And just chuck it in the trash and never think about it again.
Take it and pour holy water.
Right. Douse it in holy water, the flammable kind, and then burn that sucker. Right? You would do that. So we're all guilty of doing that thing. You know what I mean? Where we just won't believe anything. No matter what a certain people is saying, that's against a certain ideology of ours.
You have to use common sense. That's the thing. If somebody came up to me proselytizing Satanism, I'd inform them that their entire existence is to mock God.
Right, and I've looked into enough Satanism to decide it was easy, but I also have looked into it enough to decide that it's not right. You know what I mean? Like, when you listen to Anton LaVey say the precepts of Satanism, whatever, they sound fine. They're very humanitarian. They help people. Blah blah blah. They're philanthropists. They make sure people are first. On and on and on. But what about this guy who claimed to be a Satanist and he burned a church full of people? I don't. Yeah. As an example, I don't know if that's true or that's happened, but you can find these outlier problems with it that kind of make you question whether it's right or not.
So are we going to say the thing that's really going to piss people off? More so than saying, stop pushing, cross-race marriages we think libertarians are just Satanists in disguise. Personally.
You think libertarians are Satanists?
No, not really.
That's quite a bold statement.
I believe that anarchists are just more honest libertarians.
Yeah, I think that pure anarchists they're playing with fire. They're playing with Satanism, and they don't realize it.
Libertarians or anarchists?
Anarchists.
Okay.
Libertarians are not necessarily anarchists because anarchy is every man for himself, and there's no rules but your own. Libertarians aren't necessarily anarchists.
I think libertarians are fooling themselves.
Right. Well, anarchy is kind of libertarian in its purest form. I guess you could say, if you're a libertarian and you think that every man should arm himself and be able to own a gun,
but the government should be able to tell you to pay for a woman's first trimester.
Right, then you're being contradictory.
Oh.
And our baby's sneezing right into the mic.
Was that funny?
You're being contradictory to yourself. So yeah, it's kind of an odd thing. Granted, I don't necessarily want to fit into the category of conservative Republican either. If I looked at all the stuff that the Republican Party says yes on, then I'll probably find something that contradicts my ideologies and religious beliefs. You know what I mean? They may not fit, and therefore I wouldn't want to be directly associated and 100% on board with everything they say. You're never going to be 100% on board with what anyone says.
Well, that's the problem, is that people want to know your political affiliation so they can fit you into a box.
Right, a little tiny box.
But there's a
bell curve.
Well, there's a time now where you either say, oh, I don't fit into a box, and then people think that you're being a pansy, and you don't want to tell them what you actually think.
Right.
That's why, personally, I lean more towards, people just being individuals rather than trying to fit with a certain group.
Right.
And of course, there's a branch of right-leaning people who think that you're just trying to... What's the word I'm looking for? You're also being a coward if you try and claim just individualism.
Right. Well, therein lies the problem of Hegelian dialectics, right? That's what our whole nation, if you look at it, that's our whole nation is divided. It's divided right down the middle with Democrat and Republican. I don't fit perfectly into Republican. You know what I mean? I certainly don't fit with Democrat, but I don't fit perfectly with Republican. I'm certainly not libertarian. And I'm nothing. And therefore, discourse is dead, because if I don't ascribe to either of those, then no one's going to listen to me. You know what I mean?
I think the problem with saying Republican nowadays and not putting on the addendum of Christian or conservative,
right,
or anything else, is that Republicans are really just covering their ass nowadays.
Yeah.
In government.
Yeah.
I saw the other day somebody saying that they were getting fundraising emails from the Republican Party somewhere, and saying, how about instead of sending out emails, you put a stop to the impeachment, proceedings.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
what
it's just...
farce that is. Anyway, let's not get too deep into politics here.
Yeah. Suffice it to say, I have a problem with libertarians.
Clearly. You think they're Satanists.
I don't really.
But it's fun
What's
to
the term
try.
everybody uses when they're trying to back out of something real quick?
I don't know.
Disavow.
Oh,
I disavow.
Disavow everything. Disavow. That's right. It's funny. Pardon.
But before we completely abandon this topic, I was going to say... That's a nice loud cough there.
Yeah, I'll edit it out.
I don't think we talked about this last time, because I feel like it was 2 weeks ago in church that was mentioned, and I'd shown it to you the other day. Here in Alaska, just recently, somebody did an opening prayer at a city council meeting for the Church of the Spaghetti Monster.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just...
The flying spaghetti monster.
Yeah, it's just... The whole point of it is to mock Christians.
Yep.
That's the whole point. And, I hate it when people Satanists are also allowed to do that. Someplace here in Alaska.
Oh, anywhere.
And when I saw comments about it, I think I mentioned this about Satanists in a previous podcast. I was just kind of shocked at some of the comments from people on the article about it on the community page, because they're like, yeah, what Satanists ever do to anybody? Oh, come on, they always get a bad rap. Good. Religion has no place in politics. Like, okay, then what's your moral basis?
Yeah.
For anything.
Yeah, saying that religion has no basis in politics is inherently wrong, because your worldview provides you with the basis for your morality. And if the basis for your morality comes from do what thou wilt, which is a basic precept of Satanism, then it's basically anarchy. You basically will do whatever you want to do. And if that hurts people, it doesn't matter. Because it's allowed. There's no punishment. There's no repercussions. You just do what you want. You literally stab someone in the back with a sharp knife and kill them. Do what thou wilt. You do whatever you want. That is the whole of the law. That's an Aleister Crowley thing.
Well, that's why I say that libertarians aren't being intellectually honest, because they want to do whatever you want, as long as you don't hurt anyone else. That's rather subjective.
Right, but, what does it actually mean to hurt someone? As long as that's...
abortion hurts someone else.
Right, as long as it's not clearly outlined by a thing that your worldview ascribes to attempting to believe, directly, specifically referencing Christianity, we attempt to do what Jesus tells us to do.
And sometimes that hurts people's feelings.
Right, not even necessarily what the Old Testament is, or what the Ten Commandments tell us to do, because Jesus came to fulfill the law, and the Ten Commandments are part of the law. He said, love your neighbor as yourself, and love God before anything else. Those are the two things he said were the most important. You know what I mean? So he even, to some extent, made it seem like the rest of the Ten Commandments, they're not subjective. You still want to attempt to obey them, but you put these two things before them, and then the others kind of follow. He fulfilled it. You don't have to be super strict on a lot of stuff now from the Old Testament. You can eat crab, Not you. I can eat crab and shrimp. It's delicious.
Looks like an alien.
In the Old Testament, you couldn't eat those. If you follow all the law...
Face hugger.
Then you're stuck being kosher, making sure your salt has a little Jewish symbol on it so that it's kosher, And your hot dogs are Hebrew National instead of the other brand that has pork in it.
To be fair, they do sometimes
Hebrew
taste
National
better.
is delicious. I mean, those hot dogs are amazing. But you know what I mean. It's not super essential to follow all the rules of the Old Testament because Jesus fulfilled it. But I got off on a tangent. If your precept from Luciferianism is do what you will, then you'll do what you will. You're a sinful creature. We all do what we will. But those of us who try and follow Jesus are convicted and feel bad when we do what we will, and it's not what Jesus wants us to do. That's the difference.
Well, and there is a growing movement of that sort of thing in Alaska, though.
What sort of thing?
Satanism, Wicca.
Oh, yeah, there's druids who sacrifice cats and all kinds of freaky stuff going on.
In Ketchikan.
Yeah, that was in Ketchikan.
People's pets going missing.
Yeah.
Actually, even here in town, hey, what are you doing? People, last year at least, I don't know about now, had their cats go missing. And they weren't being sacrificed, as far as I know, but somebody in town was trapping people's pets and taking them all the way to the other side of town and leaving them in live traps.
Apparently around Halloween, you're supposed to keep a cat inside.
Yeah.
Because a cat will disappear. And guess what happens to that cat? Leave it up to your imagination. You'll paint a more gruesome picture than I can tell you.
Well, which brings us to an article I saw earlier today, and I couldn't read it because stupid online newspapers only allow you so many free articles per month.
Pardon me.
But I think it was El Jefe or El Guapo.
El Guapo.
Like, similar.
Yeah.
On Twitter, he posted it, and it was some cows in Oregon, I think, showing up. They didn't know how they died, but they were missing their genitals, and they were drained of blood. Mm-hmm. So, those Oregon vampires.
Well, I saw a video on Twitter the other day of this guy. It's just like a handy cam. Someone's got a video they're taking, and there's this person interviewing a dude, and the dude is talking to a woman next to him, and he says something to her. He makes her mad. And she slaps him and starts running away. Uh-huh. And the dude starts did you watch this?
No.
The dude starts chasing her, but all of a sudden he like goes down on his front arms and starts like running like a dog, like a horse or a dog. It's weird looking, and I thought, that guy's a werewolf. He's like a straight up lycanthrope.
That's creepy.
It is creepy. I'm sure here's that 80% of people or more, because this is really woo, you know.
Yeah.
But like most people who watch the video are like, oh, that's weird. When I watch it, I think that dude's a lycanthrope. Absolutely. He's
You really think that's a thing?
100%. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, the werewolfism is, it's not, it's out there. I think it's a real thing, and it is really freaky and occultic.
Well, I believe in modern day demon possession, and I'm hoping that it's not something we ever run into. I hope it's something we haven't run into.
Yeah.
But, ugh.
Yeah, I just watched a video earlier today that was, and we kind of intend to do a podcast. This is really getting out into the weeds. We're talking about red pill, so
yeah.
It's funny because in my notes I have PewDiePie written because it's funny if you watch enough PewDiePie.
He's getting there.
That dude's relatively woke, but he doesn't show up very often. But once in a while, he'll take a red pill out of his pocket and drop it in front of you.
Yeah, he said something about there's a lot of right-leaning stuff in this episode. Yeah. I better do the disavowal. Like he just threw that in there in the middle, and then went back to his regular show.
Yeah, I bet you he's someday when he's old and gray and he's already made his millions, but when he doesn't care about his image as much, he'll be like a total like conservative Christian.
Yeah,
I doubt he'll be a Christian, but he'll be dropping some bombs later on. It'll be interesting to see.
I think he is one of those people who I was going to mention is being very slowly red-pilled.
Yeah.
And I think the whole thing with the ADL was a little bit more of an eye-opener for him.
Yeah.
Because he probably just took somebody's advice and he didn't think anyone would care. And I think he was probably surprised at how many people did care.
Yeah.
Which especially, I'm waiting for him to say something, and maybe he already has. We don't watch him that often.
Yeah.
About the ADL adding the okay hand signal.
And the bull haircut.
And the bull haircut.
Yeah.
And
it's so stupid.
You just gave our son a haircut the other day. His hair was a little bit bull-shaped, but like, come on, that's the haircut moms give their kids.
Yeah.
Because it's easy.
Yep.
Or your kid won't hold still and you're literally freaked out to cut it, which is where we were at. But
we got it done. I buzzed him good. Now it's all short.
That's kind of sad.
It's funny.
It's cute blonde hair.
So where was it going before I got on a tangent? I was talking about lycanthropy.
Yeah.
I was talking about freaky stuff. Oh, I was watching a video, and we intend to do a podcast eventually about this. But like the alien deception, the abductions, that sort of thing, the alien thing, the UFO thing. I was watching a video earlier today, and you know the name, but I won't say it till later. In a later episode, I'll say it. But they touched upon specifically how almost without fail, an alien abduction, and they have a lot of these things recorded. They have witnesses making testimonies. A lot. It's more than you. It's substantial. These people who have been abducted. Anytime someone utters the name of Jesus Christ and actually calls on his name for help, it stops immediately. 100%. It just totally stops. No more alien invasion. No more abduction. No more like missing 411, missing time or whatever. None of that. Your pants aren't put on backwards. That's a thing, People get abducted, and then when they come back or whatever, all their clothes are on backwards. Like the aliens botched the job of getting them dressed again. Yeah, it's a real thing. Anyway, Jesus Christ. You call on the name of Jesus Christ? Gone. Done. Because it's demonic in nature. That's what I believe. That's what you believe. Mm-hmm. I don't. In this, I guess we could double back here. This comes back to being red-pilled. There's a certain level of red-pilled that it's too far. It goes beyond where you need to go, because then you're being dissuaded from the truth, which is in Jesus. You know what I mean? You're being brought further from that. You're being more deceived by the enemy, because he doesn't want you to think about Jesus Christ. He wants you as far from that as he can get you in any way possible. And so you may think you're super woke, and you may believe all these things that the truther community believes. 9/11 was an inside job, and the government has been studying UFOs for years, and they have all these hidden files, and vaccines are really bad for you, and on and on and on. You can believe all these things, and then suddenly you believe that ET and UFOs are actual alien entities from other galaxies, not demonic entities. And that's a big mistake to make. You can't be so red-pilled that you believe it all. You have to center it around Jesus to be grounded. You know what I mean? And that's, anyway, there's my splurge. There's my spiel about Christianity and how you can't be so red-pilled that you get deviated from what I believe is the 100% the most true thing in the world is Jesus Christ. There you go. That's the end of my sermon. You can all go to bed now.
Well, you know my opinion. I think that a lot of evil things have come out of the woodwork because we've become a multicultural country. And I think the United States was doomed from the start.
You think we're doomed? I know a lot of people who believe that we're not even going to play a part in the end times, which is kind of weird to think about because it's ambiguous. There's some imagery in Revelation when you're looking at eschatology and end times prophecy and whatnot that where like it's obvious that if a great bear, come on, it's Russia. Everyone knows it's Russia. You know what I mean? But the U.S. is kind of this thing that could or could not be.
Right. Well, what I mean is that we started as 13 colonies, right? And we collected from there. But I think that there's a end date, and I think that it's probably soon. Maybe not in our lifetime, but probably in our kids. Because already, from the beginning, the states have been trying to dissolve. You know?
Yeah, it does seem like
I think
the U.S. will just be part of whatever big entity. Will just be part of the world government.
Well, maybe. Or we'll just dissolve back into our own countries. Which, you guys know, I would love for Alaska to be its own country. But you've got California and New York trying to act like, like their own little countries. Which is fine. I think the states should all be self-governing. But then all the states need to be self-governing.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that all the other states are trying to influence the other states. California's trying to tell us what to do here in Alaska. Heck, Seattle is trying to tell us what to do here in Alaska. Did you hear about that?
No.
Seattle trying to boycott oil companies that drill in the Arctic.
What?
Yeah. And you've got morons here
saying, oh my gosh, yes, I wish more states would do that.
And some of these people aren't even in Alaska. And they're saying these things on our community pages. So, like I said, if it was up to people down south, Alaska would just be a game preserve that they could fly over and look at the pretty landscape and see the ice fields.
Or super rich people could pay exorbitant funds to come here and kill a black bear.
Yeah.
Because they'd still allow for that because it would it would net them just enormous funds.
Then they'd cry over Sarah Palin shooting wolves from a helicopter, which there are lots of wolves, okay? The wolves are doing fine.
Sarah Palin killed wolves from a helicopter? I don't remember that.
I don't know if she actually did. I just remember that was a big weeping point for liberals.
Oh, boo-hoo.
When she was John McCain's VP.
Yeah.
But, so I think the United States is going to fall apart. I think it's inevitable. I think because all the states should be self-governing, but the federal government has tried too hard to clamp down. And I think that inevitably we're either going to completely dissolve the states, like all the liberals want, or there's going to be a civil war, not because of the Trump impeachment, which is the thing right now that people are talking about.
That's because he said something about it. They're like, oh, see, he said it. He wants civil
He
war.
was
Look at
just-
what he said.
He was just retweeting somebody who said that.
Stupid.
Somebody else said it and he retweeted it. But I think that's inevitable because if people still have any backbone in this country, they don't want to be told what to do
What do
by
you
somebody.
think will be the catalyst for civil war?
Uh,
Because I've heard. Let me preface that by saying that I've heard a lot of people say that the Civil War in the U.S. wasn't actually about slavery.
no, I've heard that multiple times as well.
I can't remember what it was about.
States' rights.
Was it about states'
That's
rights?
what people always say. I don't know.
Huh.
But I don't know. I just
Because there's really only a couple of things it could be, and right now it feels like it's gonna be the left versus the right, unfortunately, because the left is so programmed to hate anyone who doesn't accept the transsexuals and the LGBTQ, whatever acronym you want to put on it.
That's what you could
And
throw all of that under states'
throw
rights.
the black people in there and throw the people who want abortions in there. You know what I mean? Or the black rights people, rather, not the black people.
You mean the
Change
black supremacists?
Yeah, the people who think that black people should get preferential treatment because
We was kings.
yeah, and reparation pay because of slavery. You know, like again, let me say, no problem with black people. I have a problem with that ideology though,
My
because you're all
ancestors
Americans.
did not own slaves. Neither did yours.
Yeah, but that's one group. You know what I mean? And it's a big group. It's weird how big it is.
Yeah.
Look at Twitter. Look at all of those posts by these people who identify their pronouns in their descriptions.
Ugh.
They have huge followings, just mobs of people. They all believe that way. They all love that ideology. And there's people like you and me. You know what I mean? And we're a large group too. We're quieter. But we're also quite a large group. Why do you think Trump has supporters in the first place?
I told you, and you get irritated every time I get in your tiff with someone. I try really hard to stay out of it, because I know it doesn't change minds of the person you're talking to.
Yeah.
But more and more I feel like this isn't the time to stay quiet anymore, because if someone says something stupid, and everyone clams up, I feel like they deserve to be shamed a little bit. And I did that the other day with somebody who... Did I mention this on the last podcast? Was it that long ago?
I don't know. It's been a while since we did a podcast.
Somebody who is somehow related to you, I think it's like a great aunt or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Made a little backhanded, stupid white boys are too lazy to go out and do hard
I hate
work.
it. I hate when people say white boys or white men.
And I take that personally,
Yeah.
because I have a little boy with blonde hair and blue eyes who is growing up in this time when looking like that does not get you any points, despite what the left says.
Yeah.
And so I took that rather personally. And instead of going off on a thing, all I said was, is this supposed to be a, quote, funny jab at white boys? And she said, well, yeah, kind of. Like, no, none of my friends who still have these farms, they don't have any white boys coming to work. They all would rather work at McDonald's or, like, play their video games. I'm just thinking, okay, one, McDonald's is a job for teenagers.
Yeah.
That is why it exists. Yes, adult illegal aliens are working these jobs now, but it is a entry-level job. And then I really wanted to say something about how all the, quote, white boys, lazy white boys, in my family have worked up in the Bering Sea.
Dying.
I have a family member. I told you this. My mom was afraid he probably would have died in a fishing boat, but instead he died on a skyscraper because his wife insisted he stay there. But it's just, it made me so mad. And I had it all typed out, and I thought, I better check with you first. And you said don't do it, so I didn't. But somebody else took it personally.
Yeah, and then that thread went wild.
It went on for days.
Yeah, people were bandwagon on there. It's funny.
But she apparently took that personally. That I instigated that whole thing, because a little while later I made a post. All I did was share this thing about vaccines and, all these things that doctors reconsidered over the years because of the awful, awful things it led to.
Yeah.
But not vaccines.
Yeah.
It was a very simple post. I didn't say a thing with it. But she thought that she would chime in. They're all smart. Well, it was medical scientists who questioned the medical science because that's how science works. And it's just one of those facepalm moments. It's just like, oh my gosh, you're just...
Yep. Again, probably one of those people on the left side of the bell curve that I drew. People who just believe what they're told.
That's how science works.
Yeah, because only medical scientists are allowed to question medical science.
But who brought it to the medical scientists? The mothers of the people having these horrible reactions?
Yeah, well, nobody believes them.
Yeah. But
which isn't true. A lot of people believe them. There's plenty of medical scientists who believe them.
I wanted to respond with something,
Yeah.
but I just responded the most simple way I could, and I think everyone misunderstood it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh well, that's the internet for you.
I don't remember how we got there.
Pardon my coughing. I don't know. But it does illustrate the point that there are people, there's just a lot of people out there who aren't utilizing logic, and they don't, it's almost like they refuse to see the big picture.
Well, on that same thread, the first thread that made her mad at me with everything, I saw one comment, the woman who got so offended, she said that she was half Native American, but she was still really offended by the jab at white boys. And she went into pretty much everything.
Well, good for her.
Yeah, that made me mad. But some woman said, it sounds like you're not ready to give up your white privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Which is maybe, like in the 40s, it was a real concept, but I don't think it really exists today. Sorry.
I think the only thing nowadays is that maybe, like, pretty blonde girls, when they're crying, somebody immediately feels sorry for them when they wouldn't necessarily feel as sorry for, like, a big woman. Like, a big, scary-looking woman.
Yeah.
But that might be it.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, a black girl claims a couple of boys cut her dreadlocks, and everyone believes her.
Yep.
A black guy claims he got jumped on the street in below freezing temperatures and had bleach thrown on him. Everyone believes him. I'm sure people still believe those things.
Jussie Smollett, the French guy.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
But, scratch that. People believe women, no matter what.
Well, yeah.
And I got into that a little bit during the Kavanaugh thing, too. I chewed some people out about that. Believe women. Believe women. Believe women. I don't believe women. Women lie. What?
Okay, I get it. Calm down. Take a breath. All right, calm yourself. Goosefraba. Goosefraba.
No, goosefrabi.
Goosefrabi. Yes. All right, well, that's close to our 1 hour mark.
Did
I think it's time to wrap it up.
hit everything?
Like, that's all I had written.
Oh.
We talked for an hour. And you thought we didn't have enough points to do a whole podcast.
Well, we're kind of rambly this time.
That's fine. As long as we stayed on point. We rambled, but we stayed on point. I got a full sermon in there somewhere. I'm
just trying to think if there was something else we wanted to talk about.
Well, there's always stuff to talk about, but the podcast is plenty long enough. I don't know why you keep wanting to push it longer.
Well, I'm not. I'm just trying to think. There's something we forgot. Okay.
Okay. Thanks for listening, everybody. Remember to get on Twitter and follow us at Hinterlands Feed. Email us if you want. Nobody emails us, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. thehinterlandsmedia@gmail.com. Or people have been emailing me, and I just don't check it. Maybe I should check it. I should check my emails.
We disavow everything.
We disavow everything. Everything we said is false. Except for the part about Jesus. That's true. But everything else is false. Thanks?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. That's it.
Bye.
Goodbye.